Hello and welcome to I Want to Fight Araki, a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure close analysis podcast. I'm Thomas,
And I exist.
and today is a momentous day. We're actually going to be passionate about the episodes that we're talking about.
Oh, so
Um,
spicy.
we were pretty, good for the Vanilla Ice and Dio episodes, but it is time that we start part 4. Diamond is Unbreakable. I'm so excited. I have a massive theory, or not, I mean not a massive theory, but certainly a larger than sensibly sized theory about Diamond is Unbreakable. So
It's a good theory.
it is. So why don't we let's just jump right into it. All right. In 1999, Jotaro Kujo is being driven into the sleepy town of Morio. When he arrives at the station, he bumps into a high school freshman named Koichi Hirose, who points Jotaro in the direction of the Higashikata family, which Jotaro is interested in. Just as Jotaro is about to leave, Koichi is harassed by some bullies before they turn their attention to a boy with a pompadour and a purple school uniform. The bullies ask the boy his name, which he reveals to be Josuke Higashikata, piquing Jotaro's interest. Because the Ske part of Josuke's name can be read as Joe, they mockingly refer to him as JoJo and order him to take off his uniform and give his wallet to them. To make their point clear, they throw a turtle against the wall, but just as Josuke is about to acquiesce to their requests, they insult his hair. Josuke's personality immediately changes, becoming more aggressive, and a pink muscular arm appears from Josuke's side, which Jotaro recognizes as a stand. Josuke uses his stand to punch one of the bullies, but when he retracts his punch, the bully's face becomes contorted. The bullies begin to run off, and Josuke picks up the hurt turtle, whose shell suddenly appears to be fixed. After the scuffle, Jotaro approaches Josuke and explains his interest in the Higashikatas. When figuring out how to divide up Joseph's inheritance, he discovered that Joseph had an affair with a young college student in Tokyo a few years before the events of Stardust Crusaders, and Jotaro reveals that Josuke is the product of that affair. As Jotaro and Josuke walk to school, joined by an interested Koichi, they are interrupted by girls flirting with Josuke. Jotaro is annoyed by the interruption and offhandedly insults Josuke's hair. This sends Josuke into a rage, and his full stand is summoned, Crazy Diamond, a pink, muscular humanoid adorned with light blue heart-shaped armor segments. Crazy Diamond unleashes a stand rush on Jotaro, which he is able to temporarily block with Star Platinum. Crazy Diamond breaks through, however, but just before he is about to be hit, Star Platinum is able to stop time for half a second, and Jotaro manages to punch Josuke. After Josuke calms down, Jotaro also informs him of the second reason of his coming to Morio, that he is searching for a genius serial killer named Angelo, showing Josuke pictures of him with a misty face in the background. Angelo is of interest because on the day of his execution, he was mysteriously able to escape from prison. Jotaro believes that Angelo escaped using the power of a stand, but is unsure of how he acquired one, and so began an investigation into the killer. Josuke and Koichi part ways with Jotaro for the time being, as across town a belligerent man and his girlfriend run into Angelo. After school, Josuke and Koichi decide to walk home together when they come across the belligerent man from earlier, robbing a convenience store and holding a woman hostage with a knife. The man insults Josuke's hair, and Josuke uses Crazy Diamond to punch a hole through the hostage and the man. The woman is ultimately left unharmed by Crazy Diamond's ability, but the man's knife is implanted into his chest. Just as police arrest the crazed man, Josuke notices a watery humanoid exit the man's mouth, which Josuke recognizes as Angelo's stand. The stand swears vengeance on Josuke, and the next day, Angelo stalks the Higashikata home disguised as a milkman and waiting for his moment to strike. Jotaro calls Josuke, and Josuke explains his run-in with Angelo's stand, while outside, Angelo attempts to sneak his stand into the house through the milk bottles, but Tomoko, Josuke's mom, notices and gets sealed ones instead. Angelo takes his anger from his failure out on a man and his dog nearby and gets the idea to slip his stand, Aqua Necklace, in through the water pipes. Jotaro warns Josuke of this exact phenomena, and Josuke notices that Aqua Necklace is about to possess Tomoko. Josuke uses Crazy Diamond to punch a hole through his mom while holding a glass bottle. The bottle breaks, and Josuke heals it around Aqua Necklace while also healing his mom. Josuke gets back on the phone and agrees to meet up with Jotaro at the Higashikata home, but Josuke is concerned that Jotaro's resemblance to the young Joseph Joestar may stir up the feelings Tomoko still harbors for him and asks Jotaro to wait a bit. Meanwhile, Angelo stalks outside and notices that Josuke's grandfather is also the same officer Higashikata who arrested him many years ago. Jotaro eventually arrives at the house, but just as Josuke is about to leave, he notices his grandfather knocked out on the floor, having drunk from the glass bottle that housed Aqua Necklace. Josuke attempts to heal his grandfather with Crazy Diamond, but because he is already dead, Josuke fails. In the wake of Grandpa Higashikata's death, Josuke swears to protect both Tomoko and Morio in his absence. 3 days pass as Jotaro and Josuke wait for an attack until it suddenly starts raining while Jotaro is outside. He is immediately attacked by Aqua Necklace, but is able to fend it off with Star Platinum. Aqua Necklace heads inside and begins turning on the stoves and faucets in an effort to fill the house with as much steam as possible so it can travel more freely. After fending it off for a bit, Jotaro and Josuke find cover in a side room, only to find a humidifier on full blast. Aqua Necklace comes flying out of the machine and into Josuke's mouth, but just as it seems all is lost, Josuke reveals that earlier he ate pieces of a shredded up rubber glove. Crazy Diamond fixes the glove around Aqua Necklace and pulls it out of Josuke's mouth. Josuke begins spinning the rubbery prison, and Angelo begins to go flying around the neighborhood. Angelo attempts to plead forgiveness and say that Josuke has no right to kill him. Josuke tells Angelo that he can't tell people what to do, but that he also won't kill him either. Crazy Diamond beats the tar out of Angelo and the rock to his back before healing both together, trapping Angelo in a rocky prison forever. End of episodes.
I love part 4 so much.
Yeah, it's so good. These first 2 episodes are pretty strong, honestly. Like, I feel like they're stronger than like the first 2 episodes of Stardust Crusaders, honestly.
My God, they are. The first you heard my rant about the first 2 episodes of Stardust Crusaders. I hate them.
Yeah.
I don't hate them, but they're just like in comparison to other openings to the show, and especially just when it comes to like exposition in general, it was just bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just straight up not good.
Well,
but this is great. I love I love how the first thing you see is a tease of the villain.
Yes.
I love that so much.
And I don't know. Should we talk about the opening real quick? Crazy Noisy Bizarre Town.
I love Crazy Noisy Bizarre Town.
Yeah, it's part 4. I think probably has some of my favorite openings of the series.
Great Days is my favorite opening.
Yeah, Great Days is definitely up there. I honestly go back and forth between Great Days and Trader's Requiem from part 5, but yeah.
Me and Thomas have the same taste. That is my second favorite one.
But yeah, I think first off, I think what's really cool about it is like, I feel like it's such a, like, more than any other like OP, I feel like this is such a tone setter, just because like this song is like jazzy as hell. Like, part 4 is like easily the most like colorful part. Like, it's very light in terms of like the colors that they pick for things and stuff like that. And like, I feel
Crazy
like
Noisy Bizarre Town sounds like Uptown Funk a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of does, honestly. But one thing I kind of like about it is like they still sort of have like bits and pieces of like, the darker side of Morio, as we're gonna see, because like honestly, my favorite little bit is that like in the beginning they show like all the stand users like flying in, like the silhouettes of them like all like in flying in different directions, and they throw Kira, the main villain of part 4, as we'll see, in the middle of it, which I just think is like such a great little detail, and like fits so well with his character and stuff like that.
He's blending in. I just want to live a quiet life, blend in with everyone else. Well, that was just artistically amazing. I'm gonna go on a rant at some point.
Honestly,
actually, maybe I'll go on the rant right now about the art style, because we're already
go
talking
for
about it. So the art style of part 4, in the anime at least, can't really talk about the manga too much because I've only read certain parts of the manga. The part 4 anime art style is my personal favorite one. As an art
Yeah.
kid who has been in art classes all my life, took all the AP stuff. My God, that's what I do. I do the draw stuff. I do the composition and design. As someone who is like that, part 4 pleases me on a spiritual level. I ascended when we watched these first 2 episodes again.
Yeah.
It's like the way they do some of the colors, like they mess with the warm tones and the cool tones. And the way, like, for example, like most of the time, the sky is yellow and the trees are a dark green, and all the dark colors are not black, but they're usually shaded with a dark purple or a dark blue. And it's
Hmm.
always contrasted with yellow, which is just perfect. It's the perfect sort of surreal vibe that I love. Like that shows, like, I love it when animated shows mess with color tones. Like, and one of my favorite examples of this is in Hilda. Thomas, you've seen Hilda,
Yes. Yeah.
where they have those sepia tones, but then they just throw teal in there, and they make
Hmm.
everything like they just bend reality ever so slightly to change the vibe. And another thing that they do, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of what colors they were. In the afternoon, like when it's the afternoon in the show, they change the colors as well to make it warmer by adding like oranges in there as well, but they still, it's like, I forgot what they change it to. It's like, oh, I don't know why I didn't write that down. They throw like orange tones into it, and it just looks amazing. And not to mention, like, all the lines are just, especially in comparison to part 3, they're not as jagged, they're a lot softer. But like I feel like the art style in part 4 as well, especially the character designs, are a lot softer. Like the lines
Yeah.
are a lot softer and the lines are a lot thicker as well.
I mean, there's definitely, and like, I don't mean this to sound like an insult because I think it works very well for the tone of part 4, but the character designs in general are just a lot less detailed than they are in part 3, or at least the way that they're drawn. Like, there's like very like minor outlines. Like, there's almost like no lines on faces aside from like, anatomy. Um, and it's like I feel like a strength of like part 4 in terms of the character design is like the characters convey so much personality, like more so like through their clothing. And I think the fact that the characters faces and stuff are less detailed makes them more expressive, which I just, I think especially considering like part 3 was like, all the characters were kind of like some variation on like the stoic, protagonist, and like the supporting cast, as we'll see for part 4, is like they are a wacky bunch of characters. Everyone is very quirky in their own ways.
That's a bit
Um,
that's a bit why I like animation overall. As I've said to you many
mhm.
times, I don't care about a show that comes out unless it's animated. It really depends on the show, but usually that's all I ever pay attention to. That's and that's part of the reason is because you can just change things in that way and exaggerate things without it with it still feeling very real.
Yeah.
Like the expressions that you can convey through animation, especially if it's less detailed, like in like part 4 instead of part 3 sort of style, it can convey so much more, oddly enough. I don't
Hmm.
know, I might just be super biased because like the way that I draw generally is more similar, is kind of similar to the part 4 style with like those thick lines and those like more minimal details. Maybe I'm just very biased, but like
No,
the colors are what get me.
I'm totally on your same wavelength. Like, I love part 5. Like, we'll discuss how much I love it, but like Giorno has the same face for that whole part. Like Josuke is a much more expressive protagonist, and I like that a lot.
I will say
Um,
I do love the part 5 art style, but my least favorite of them art style wise is definitely part 3. I'm
yeah,
very excited to see how they animate part 6.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. Uh, One last little note, like I'll add, and like we can move on to a different topic if you want, but there's a shot where well, first off, I just want to say that part 4 is like much more ambitious in terms of like the shot composition and like
Oh my
just the
god, the
way it's like,
transitions are amazing.
yeah, the transitions are awesome. There's a part where like Jotaro is like he's on the phone with Josuke, and then he puts the phone down and turns, and like it cuts to him like getting in a car, but like he hasn't moved at all, and it's so cool. Um, and but there's a shot where like right before they fight Aqua Necklace, Jotaro like looks up at the sky, and the clouds just look like I don't know how to describe it necessarily. It's almost like a pop-up storybook or something like that.
Swirly clouds where
Yeah,
they
very
do all the
swirly, like
spirals.
thick outlines and stuff like that.
It's my favorite way to animate clouds. It's the best way to do it. It's beautiful and I love it so much.
And I think I mean I could sort of tie this into my big theory. I mean I'll save it more towards the end of this episode, but you know, like part 4 is like about like a very like it, the morality play here is extremely simple, I find. But that's sort of the point, and like that's sort of, you know, one of the. I mean, I guess I'll just say it now. I mean, to me, part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable, is essentially about how not only like you know good beats evil just because like good is nice and stuff, but like goodness and you know like the correct thing to do is like it's like a law of the universe, like you know evil will never win forever, and like it's always going to be like it will just always lose because like that's like how the universe is supposed to be. You can't change it. um and so I think sort of having like this more simplistic art style, you know, kind of reflects this like simple morality play, um, even though, you know, the points being made about it aren't necessarily um, as simple.
Good stuff right there.
Yeah.
I have a way to transition a bit with
Hmm.
one more last bit about the art style and how it affects the tone, which we already like discussed a little bit. Um, I think the best part about, especially the colors, as I've said, oh my god, the colors, they're so good, is that it creates this very interesting tone that
Hmm.
it's. I'm trying to find a good way to explain it. It's fantastical and welcoming and surreal.
I would say
It,
it's very Lynchian.
yes, and
Um,
that's what I was going to talk about. And how did you read my mind, Thomas? Um, Lynchian, as in my man Araki watched Twin Peaks after he finished writing part 3. This is a thing. We actually know he has indeed watched it before. This man definitely watched it. I'm pretty sure I've heard stuff about him actually saying that, especially since part 4 and part 5 both have powerfully present vibes that remind me a lot of Twin Peaks,
Yeah.
especially in part 4. Well, part 4 like mirrors the plot of Twin Peaks, but part 5 mirrors like other aspects of it that part 4 didn't mirror,
Hmm.
I would say. And that's why I love the surreal part of it, because if y'all seen Twin Peaks, first of all, watch it. It's good. And second of all, it's very surreal. And it all takes place in one town. Like they never leave that town. And this is the same sort of vibe. And it's very different from what we normally see in JoJo stuff because they're in part
Yeah.
3 all over the place. Like even in part 2 and part 1, they like go places. But no, this all takes place in one town. It has a very strong sense of community to it. It's welcoming. Like sometimes the colors are very soft, but at the same time, they may be soft, but they're not real looking. So it gives you sort of a fantastical vibe, but also kind of a almost scary vibe, like surreal. Like
Yeah.
you know something's not right with this. Like and especially since we see the part 4 colors only in part 4, like this is the only time they use that particular color scheme, it really does make the town feel isolated and different from everywhere
Hmm.
else in the JoJo universe.
One thing I really appreciate about part 4 is like Morio, the town, is like very much a character. I
I
feel
love
like,
Morio the town.
yeah, it's like there's so many like little details. So like an example of this is that uh in this first episode, there's like a scene where um like Grandpa Higashikata like helps out this like old woman who's like fallen down, and like we're gonna see that old woman like later on, like it's not like plot important or like doesn't have any effect on like stuff like that, but it just helps like flesh out the town and like I mean this really is like I think one way you can summarize this story is like this is a battle for like the soul of Morio essentially. Like you've got good guys and you've got bad guys, and it's like who is going to end up on top. And like there's so many shots of the town, and like I mean it's just got a lot of character. One thing that I think is like really awesome is so like after Josuke like traps Angelo in this rock, like a little like text blurb comes up and says um like it's like a landmark of Morio is the Angelo rock. um
I
so
think they
like
do that throughout as well, where like in certain episodes they'll have little bits of like, oh, here's a Morio landmark that you should totally check out on your next visit here, because this is a real place now.
yeah, they and like they do it a bunch, you're totally right, and I think it just helps flesh out the town more, like it makes it feel like it's a real place, which I mean I think
It's the
is
same reason why I loved Twin Peaks so much.
yeah. And like it's I mean part four I was in terms of like the main like Joe Bros supporting characters, it's not quite as big as other parts, but there's a ton of recurring characters, um, which I think it all just contributes to um, the tone and like the setting, like just being a character. I mean, it's definitely a strength of part four.
My personal favorite part about this is my
We
Mario
love
Children.
you, Moriocho.
We do. I
um,
love the radio guy. He's fantastic. We don't even know him, but like at the same time I feel like he's my best friend.
yeah, well, I guess we can sort of, I mean, we're skipping around here a little bit, but I honestly think that like part four has the most effective like opening scene out of all the anime parts.
Oh my god, yes.
Um,
I
it's like,
completely agree with
happy
that.
music, Moriocho radio, and like, oh, like persons making breakfast and stuff like that. And, it's nice and wholesome. And then it's a severed hand. Um, and like the blood from the hand like drips down and like creates a ripple. And like that's where the logo comes in. It's like, God, like such an effective way of like communicating like the tone of this part in particular. It's like, at one moment it could be like nice, happy, sort of that kind of vibe, and then it can get like super dark.
You know what that vibe reminds me of? Twin Peaks. But yeah, it's great, especially since that we don't see Kira until like you see him then, and then you don't get any teasing of him except for in the intro for several episodes, and then you see him in the background a few times.
Yeah.
And then like we'll talk about his intro later, but it's amazing.
Hmm.
So Kira's my favorite villain that has been animated so far, at least. Kira's amazing. What else? What else do we have here?
Well, I mean, let's talk about the characters.
Yes, very important.
So, I mean, I guess we can just start with Jotaro because like he's back again.
He's back, and he's even sadder than he was last time.
Yeah, really, like all of Jotaro's like subsequent appearances, it's like he becomes more and more depressed every time.
As someone who has now read part 6, he
Yeah,
just gets sad.
yeah, especially in part 6.
It's just sad. He's just a sad bastard.
No, but here, I mean, it's kind of interesting because like with Jotaro's design, like they were very much like trying to evoke like like a certain like punk movement in Japan. But like now, he's a little bit more older. He's wearing a sweater vest. He's more mature.
He's wearing a sweater vest, oh boy.
Whereas Josuke is, he's like his design is obviously partially inspired by Prince, but
he simps for Prince, so he dresses like him.
Also partially inspired by like another punk movement in Japan called, I think they're called Yankees. Like the Pompadour is like part of that. And I think it's really, I mean, it's very interesting that like Jotaro like has to be the adult now, and like
I'm the uncle in this situation.
Yeah, even though he's technically Josuke's nephew, he's the uncle.
Uncle Josuke, my man.
And I think it's I mean, where Jotaro is definitely like he's like the Joe bro in this series that like probably gets like the least development. But I mean, there is like one scene which I'll talk about later when we talk about Josuke. Did you want to add anything about Jotaro and like his role so far?
I'm good on Jotaro. I'm itching to talk about my boy Josuke.
Yeah. So Josuke, who is our JoJo for part 4, there's so much to talk about with him, especially in contrast to the main villain once we get to Kira. But yeah, I mean, I think also a really great introduction, where you got these bullies and like they like mess up this turtle, and like even though Josuke has a fear of reptiles, he still like um, heals it and like has to pick it up, and like it still freaks him out. Like he's still very like human in that way. Like Josuke is like not what Jotaro was like in part 3. Like he is not this unflappable, badass, serious dude. Like Josuke is very much a goofball in so many aspects. I mean, honestly, he's kind of like a fusion of like Joseph and Jotaro, honestly, from their respective parts in terms of his like personality.
I will say it's hard for me to pick who my favorite JoJo is, but most of the time I would think I say Josuke.
Yeah.
Only because he feels out of all of them most like a real person.
Mm-hmm.
And for several reasons. One, he's like, as I said many times before, especially in the last part 3 episode, how the last few parts, 4, 5, and 6 are what I call the new gen JoJos.
Yeah.
And then, 1, 2, and 3 are the old gen, and how the new gen JoJos sort of are more positive counterparts to the old gen ones. Like they like not mess up less, but they're just, I guess, more forward thinking and more modern and just generally morally better. And they're just better people for the most part. Like they have a tendency to do better things. And I feel like Josuke mirrors Joseph a lot in that sense, because he's very much like him, but at the same time, he's so much morally better than him. He's still like a little shitlord. He pulls clever shenanigans. He does crazy things to, save the day. But at the same time, instead of only wanting to save a few certain people he likes and himself, he's doing it for everyone.
Yeah.
He feels this, he doesn't just want to save a few people. He wants to save everyone actively. And, he even tries to save that turtle and he's afraid of them. Like that's something that Joseph would never do. And he also just doesn't peep on girls that may or may not be his mom. And he doesn't peep on girls, and 2, he's not an asshole to his mom.
Yeah.
like Jotaro.
He
actively loves his mom.
Yeah. He is like Joseph in the sense that they both have hot moms. That's another important factor. No, but I think what's a really, God, there's so many like brilliant character details. I mean, all right, so like first, like you're talking about this idea of like Josuke is like he's very selfless and like he wants to protect the town and not just the people that he loves but like innocent people. and I love how that's reflected in his stand. Because like Crazy Diamond's, main ability is to heal. Um, but its weakness is that Josuke can't heal himself. Um, and like, you think about it, like Crazy Diamond's healing is like insane. Like, Josuke regularly punches holes, like entire holes through people.
That killed like 3 people in part 5.
Exactly. Yeah. Got Kakyoin as well. And
The
like
Donut Gang.
it takes him like, milliseconds for Crazy Diamond to, heal the person. Um, and I think, I really just had like one line that I specifically wanted to talk about in relation to these characters that, also kind of ties into my toxic masculinity theory a little bit.
We love to hear it.
Is like, there's a part, so like where Josuke is like trying to revive Grandpa Higashikata, like Jotaro comforts him by saying that he says something like, like the history of human growth or like human existence or something can like be summarized by like destruction. But your power, and he says like, but your power is like the kindest of them all or something like that. And like I feel like, because part 4 is like very much like a turning point. And you think about it, like Star Platinum is like all about destruction, like it'll fuck you up, and it's super strong and fast and stuff like that. And Crazy Diamond is all like that too, but he, like Josuke is like not about like destroying, like he is like, you know he'll do it if it means protecting someone, but he's just as much about helping people, emotionally and like in other ways. And like that's what makes him like the sort of, the non-toxic version of Joseph, I guess you could sort of say.
A perfect point right there.
Yeah.
I will say, I think my theory of the new gen, old gen JoJo's very much ties into the toxic masculinity theory, because
Definitely.
like, the point where it's no longer toxic masculinity is the point where the new gen JoJo's comes in. It's the exact same time. It's this lovely transition between part 3 and 4, where like it's 1999 now, baby.
Yeah, and like
Josuke don't care.
That's yet another. I will say, like, part 4 is not my favorite part, but it is my favorite part to talk about, because there's just so many themes and they're just like layered in just so perfectly, and I can't wait to talk more. But yeah, like you're totally right. Like the fact that this series takes place in 1999 specifically is like definitely important. Like passing the torch is like a motif in this. Obviously we're gonna get more of an exploration with Josuke's relationship with his father, a Joe bro later on. His, as we'll discuss next episode of this podcast.
My king Okuyasu, my god, do we stan?
He's very much connected with his father. Kira, the main villain, has a fatherly sort of relationship. And it's all about like I've by the way, I have so many thoughts about like part 4, but like I feel it, and like I won't dive too deep into them because like I feel like the points and the evidence and stuff relating to them come later on. But like how a person like grows because of their fathers is like a big theme in this, and like father figures as well, not just fathers. And how it is important to love and forgive, but also it's important to move on. And it's just I love talking about part 4 so much. This is going to be great.
Bro, you and me both. Goddamn, this is gonna be a great time. Aren't you glad we decided to do this now instead of postpone it?
Yes.
I was itching for part four. I
I will
love
still
part
be
four.
tired, but I will be happy tired.
I will be happy and exhausted.
um, God, yeah. Oh, I mean, I don't know. Should we talk about Koichi a little bit?
Coochie.
He's not in a lot of these episodes, but definitely going to be an important character going forward.
I mean, I have
Um,
no notes about my man Coochie, but at the same time, I feel like we sort of have to talk about him a little bit. He's introduced as this lovely boy. He doesn't do much. He's just sort of here.
yeah, I mean, I
That's
guess,
him for his entire introduction. He's just sort of here. And then you watch him grow as a person, and he's no longer just sort of here. No, he's doing things.
what's sort of something important to know is that Koichi's the narrator, actually, um, at least for like parts of part four. Um, and the first time we see Koichi, he says that he's like, my name is, he says something like, my name is Koichi Hirose, like I'm a freshman in high school. Oh, but like my name's not really important. Like you don't have to remember it. And it's like, it's very
He
meta
becomes a
because like you do
main
have to remember
character.
it and it is important. Um, and like, this character is very important to like the events going forward and things like that. Um, so like it sort of shows like just how like um I mean, like Koichi, like definitely has like one of the most concrete arcs in the whole series. Is like him like growing in his self confidence, and like the fact that like he does not consider his own name important, despite the fact that we know it's going to be important going forward, just shows like how insecure and like lacking confidence he truly is.
Not gonna lie, I love Koichi and his arc is amazing, but he's just like for me so overshadowed by a lot of the other characters. Like
Yeah.
Josuke and Okuyasu are just like perfect to me. I love them both so much. They're just very much just two bros being stupid together, doing dumb things.
You are
They
attracted to the inherent eroticism of being stupid together.
yep, it's literally just two bros just vibing. Like the relationship between them is just hilarious and amazing. And then you got like Rohan, who is just doesn't have an arc really, but at the same time, he's just so ridiculous.
I mean, I would say Rohan has a little bit of an arc,
A
but
little bit, but he's
um,
just so ridiculous, and it's the best. I love it so much. He's a little bitch.
yeah. I mean, even Koichi, I think what's interesting, I mean, Koichi is sort of like the audience surrogate, It's like,
Oh yeah, that's probably
um,
why he's sort of overshadowed by everyone,
yeah, like
and everyone loves him as well.
he's not really like the ration. He like Koichi's like the rational one. Like, he's like, I mean, we're sort of leaning into like later episodes, but like Koichi is like definitely like very active in this whole murder investigation and like he's the one like pursuing leads and things like that. And so, he's not quite as like wacky or bombastic as the other characters for sure, but you know, no less likable. I mean, I definitely like Koichi a lot. He's not my favorite part four character by any stretch, but you know, I like that he's there. He's a reliable guy.
He's a reliable guy. It's my favorite thing about Koichi though is how he's just this like dude. He's just chilling. He's literally just a good person living his life. And
Yeah.
then for some reason, all of these other bastards just take a liking to him in the weirdest and worst way possible. You got Yukako, who kidnaps him.
Yeah.
And then you got Jotaro, who just like loves him. He's like, I'd rather have you as my child than my own daughter. Like
Well, I
kind of
think
vibe. And then you got Rohan, who's just like he hates everyone except for Koichi.
right. I think the relationship that Jotaro and Koichi have and like build throughout the series is like definitely like
You're my
something
new child.
interesting to explore. I don't know if I have like a concrete on idea of like what they're trying to say there like right now, but
We'll
something
figure
to
it
think
out.
about for the future.
What else do we have to talk about? Oh, Tomoko. Let's talk about
Yeah.
Tomoko for 2 seconds. I love her. She's fantastic. She's
Easily
just an
the best,
absolute queen.
easily the best female character in JoJo so far.
Yeah, she even like beats out Yukako, and she's like not there nearly as much.
Yeah.
But it's just like she's literally just a mom, and there's that bit at the beginning where, oh my god, what exactly happened? It's
So
literally been like 2 weeks since I watched these episodes where she like
this
tells some guy.
guy, this guy pulls up. I mean, we. This guy pulls up and he's like sort of like macking on her or whatever, like calling her hot or whatever, and she's not interested. And I think he says something like, oh, can I give you a ride? And she says something like yeah, sure. What says some like snarky response to it, and then grabs his head and slams it against his car window, and the window breaks.
She's just fantastic. Like, she's literally best mom, 10 out of 10. Like, she just beats up dudes who are, weird, and then just loves her son. She's like, yes, this is my idiot son, but I love him very much. He's a good person, but he's stupid. Like,
I mean,
it's my personal favorite, like, parents-child relationship in
definitely.
well, maybe in JoJo, just the funniest one at least, because then you got like, I love the scene of man, Josuke, he's playing video games. And she comes in and she's like, hey, stop playing video games. And she starts like kicking him in the head. And he was like, no, just a little bit longer to beat this level. And she's like, get off your ass. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I think
very much, it feels like I just want to say one last thing. It feels like a very real like mother-son relationship. Like,
definitely.
they love each other, but like get on each other's nerves sometimes.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's definitely like an important part of like Josuke's character. Also, something I just thought of real quick, and then I'll go into what I was trying to say is one thing that I think is like very telling about Josuke's character is that his 2 pins that he has on his like school uniform. One is a peace sign and one is a heart.
A Prince
so, like,
reference.
I mean, yes, for sure, but also like peace and love, and like a point that they make like over and over again is like that Josuke is like an extremely kind person.
Peace, love, and purple rain.
Yeah, so what I was gonna say about Tomoko was that, I mean, the one thing that like I don't know necessarily if I would call it like problematic, but just kind of like rubs me up the wrong way is I don't know, it seems kind of weird that like she would still have feelings for Joseph, like 17 some odd years after they did the deed.
We could debate whether it's legitimate feelings of love or if it's just pure thirst. And she's just such an independent woman, TM, that she just doesn't care. She's like, yes, I still thirst over this guy, and I'm completely not ashamed of it.
Yeah, I mean,
there's several ways to read it. That's kind of a stretch, but
yeah,
like that's what it felt like more. What it felt like was, I was like, she's not in love with him. Like, it really doesn't feel like that.
I guess
if she was in love with him, I feel like it would be a lot of a different vibe.
It's weird though. I mean, we can definitely talk about it later, but like, I guess I see it from the opposite angle, where it's like, yeah, she is such an independent woman, and like, doesn't take bullshit or whatever. So like, I feel like she would be, pretty pissed at Joseph for like being an absentee father and stuff like that.
But she wasn't.
Right. Which, I mean, to me, like the interactions that we see Jotaro have with Tomoko, like, to me, like, she's still in love with, like, properly in love with Joseph. I mean, that's how I see it, at least. But
gee, if only we could know this, by if they actually gave her an interaction with Joseph when he came back that one time. But no, they just had her mistake Jotaro for Joseph once, and then she just like flings herself onto him, and he's like, I'm not Joseph.
Right. What I was gonna say, oh gosh, I was gonna say something about Josuke again, I think. Oh yeah. I remember now. So yeah, they make this point about like how Josuke is like very like kind and selfless and all these sorts of good qualities. But what I think is really interesting is like his personality is he is like all these things, but like it's not like in the traditional way where like the bully like throws the turtle against the wall or whatever, like it cracks, it's bleeding, and like Jotaro says something like, I'm more pissed about the fact that Josuke like didn't get upset by like the turtle being hurt. And it's like it's not that Josuke isn't upset, but it's just that he's lived with his stand for his whole life basically. And like Josuke just knows that like Crazy Diamond's healing abilities are just so extreme that like he doesn't really think about like in like injuries or like a person being hurt and stuff like that like as like an immediate like emergency problem just because Crazy Diamond is so powerful. And I just think that's like a really interesting exploration of that, like a person who is kind but is so powerful that like they don't necessarily like register like emergencies or problems like right away.
I feel like that was a very important thing to bring up, especially when it comes to my boy Josuke.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, woo.
All right, well,
nothing left to say.
those were all the points I had. Should we talk about
Nice.
silly stuff?
Shall we? My God. I love how Jotaro's a marine biologist.
Yeah, how random, right? Like
He's like, I actually wrote like a very well-known thesis about starfish. Yeah, that's my thing now. I'm like, okay, so
yeah, he's got like I mean, not in this outfit, but in a few of his different outfits later on, like there's like a dolphin motif that he has going on.
that's the dolphins.
Yeah, pretty random. I mean, just all of like Josuke's shenanigans in this. I mean, like the fact that he just like twists that dude's like face is like pretty wacky. And like especially like Josuke's trait of like getting angry when people insult his hair. I mean, there is like a serious reason for that, but it's also like a pretty funny just character trait that he has in general.
My personal favorite comedic thing from these episodes, and that comes back in several episodes, is yo, Angelo. The fact that he literally beats this serial killer who is actually like far worse than the main villain, who is also a serial killer. Like, can we just for 1 second, Angelo is far more terrifying than Kira is to me.
Yeah,
because he's just so much more unhinged and messy about killing people.
He's like a rapist as well.
Yeah, he's a rapist. He tortures people before, like, Kira doesn't really torture people much. He just sort of kills them.
Right.
And I'd much rather be killed by Kira than be killed by Angelo.
Yes, definitely.
So I'd much rather have that guy kill me. If I had to pick how I would die, I would go with Kira in an instant. And he just takes this guy who is literally human garbage, the most dangerous and worst person in all of part 4 at least, beats him into a rock. He's still alive. He's just in a rock now, and just walks past him every day on the way to school and just says hi.
My favorite little like minor thing is like in the little pop-up or whatever for like talking about the Angelo Rock being a landmark is that they say like it's like a place where lovers meet despite the fact that everyone finds it so creepy.
Yep. It's like that whole bit about how David Bowie wrote Heroes because of these two lovers that used to meet and make out every day at the Berlin Wall.
But see, that's wholesome. Whereas, like, Angelo Rock is like, serial killers, trapped in a stone.
Yeah. I also
Um,
personally love, there's this one part where Jotaro is talking about just Joseph, and he refers to him as that old piece of shit. I just really like that.
yeah. um, I mean, I guess like a minor point, just to like jump back for a second, but like the other thing is like the fact that like Josuke apologizes for, the trouble that's like going on in the Joestar household, despite the fact that like he is not responsible in the slightest, like that's like
My man,
another, moment of like Josuke's like kindness
I
seeping
love
through.
this wholesome boy so much. I also
um,
love, hi, I'm your nephew. Yes, I know I'm a lot older than you, but I'm your nephew, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. It's kind of wacky.
Ain't that wacky?
Also,
Um,
Jotaro's hat in this part is significantly worse than his hat in part 3
yeah,
because
well,
at
it
least it
changes a
was the
couple
same.
times.
At least it was the same color in part 3, so it you could understand that it was just like a weird art style thing, maybe. Like that's what I always thought it was. Like, oh, it's just like an art style thing, how they made like the hat hair blend. But
Hmm.
no, in this one, his hair is black and the hat is white, and it still
It
blends
blends.
together. It looks like the back of the hat was singed and burned off.
Yeah.
And I just hate it so much. I hate
I
it.
mean, Jotaro's design in general is pretty weird because he's like, he's got the white suit, like fine. But then he's wearing like a green like undershirt, like with a popped collar and a purple sweater vest.
That's just interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's like somewhere it's like in the uncanny valley where it's like, it's not like so wacky that it's like, JoJo wacky outfits, but it's not like a normal outfit either.
Oh
Somewhere in the
yeah.
middle.
Also, and what my last funny bit I think is the vibe that happened when Tomoko came in to tell Josuke to get off his ass and stop playing video games. It very much reminded me of that meme, "Get the fuck out of my room, I'm playing Minecraft." Like that's the vibe it had, and it's just a very good energy.
The last funny thing I had is just this crazy scene before Grandpa Higashikata is killed where he puts a gun next to Josuke's head. And he's like, "Why aren't you at school?" um,
I
and he's
love
like,
Grandpa. He's great.
it's just like a model gun, but like they just the fact that they have this weekly game of trying to scare each other, I just think is hilarious.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. Man, they really do honestly do Grandpa Higashikata kind of dirty in part 4.
He's so great, and like we could have had more of him, and that would have been amazing because he's great.
Apparently there's more of him in the live action movie.
That's exciting.
So, and we might try and watch it.
I feel like
Honest,
we're legally obligated
I
to.
mean, I think the in terms of like the supplementary material we have to cover for part 4, in between this and part 5 is going to be pretty chunky because
It's gonna be great.
we plan on covering the Rohan stuff, the Rohan solo comics. Um, there's a Kira solo comic as well.
Is there? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then the live action movie, but that's for later on. I mean that's all I had.
That's all I have. You know
All
what?
right. Well, if you want to see all the silly, semi-serious stuff that I talk about in my free time, rants about Sonic the Hedgehog or whatever, you can follow me on Twitter at Thomas M. Brickman. Also do another podcast with my buddy Kevin, which at the time that this episode goes up, our video game podcast, post game content will start appearing on all your standard podcast networks. So Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all that. So look out for that there. You can find info on that at PostgameCon. That's at PostgameCon on Twitter and Instagram. And Emily, where can people find you on the internet?
Twitter, Emily Winkles. Yes, you can hear me rant about. I have to think of something specific because you said something specific. Watch me rant about anime. And watch every single shoujo anime ever made, and then try to write a very random essay about comparing all of the shoujo anime to each other. That's my latest weird plan that I have.
Good. Sounds like a good plan.
Also, you should tell everyone the news about how we are on Another Place now.
Yeah, well, if you want to listen to this show, besides YouTube, we're also on all other, major podcast networks now. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that. I'm going to start new episode. So the way that's breaking down is that we're going to do we're going to post 2 old episodes to podcast networks every week while we do these new ones. And then once we catch up, new episodes of the show are going to go up on YouTube and podcasting networks simultaneously. So, look out for that in future. If you just want to catch up, do a big binge, check out I Want to Fight Araki on all major podcasting networks. Also keep up with the news and memes that Emily finds and makes and all that at I Want to Fight AR1 on Twitter and I Want to Fight Araki on Instagram. And with all that said, we'll see you guys next time when we cover Diamond is Unbreakable episodes 3, 4, and 5. We'll see you guys next time.